Hey, I'm Richard. Welcome back to my kitchen. I'm back today with another great recipe to share with you. It's the day after Halloween. As you can tell, I'm still wearing my mask. But fall is in the air. It's getting cool outside. Perfect time to start making like some soups and casseroles and things that are great for cold weather, make you feel all warm and toasty inside. Gotta love that. What I'm going to share with you today is one of the favorite recipes of this household. That's butternut squash soup. Been making it for years. I've tweaked the recipe dozens of times, tried different things. I think I've got it right where I want it now. At least my partner seems happy with it. And hey, happy wife, happy life, right? So let me get the ingredients together and I'll walk you through this recipe. Hang on. Okay. As I always say, I like recipes that have just a handful of ingredients that are easy to make and that allow you to be creative. And this is a perfect example of that. A handful of ingredients for butternut squash soup. You need butternut squash, obviously. Quick tip on this: when you buy butternut squash, buy one that is heavy for its size, because that means it's got a lot of meat in it. There's some saying about, if you look at the bottom, the way the little core thing looks, if it's round it's male, if it's oblong it's female, or vice versa, and that depends or determines if it's a sweeter squash or something like that. I don't know. This one though is nice and heavy, sturdy, solid, good choice. Need an onion. Again, you can try different onions. This is just a regular yellow onion. If I catch it just right, here in North Florida we can get Vidalia onions, which are amazing, but you know, your mileage may vary. Get whatever's available. And then a couple of apples. These I believe are BGs. I took the labels off the other day, so I don't know what kind they are, but they're sweeter apples. Again, there's 50 or 60 different types of apples out there. Everyone's got a preference, so use what you like. I've got some homemade vegetable stock that I made yesterday, and the final main ingredient is some type of like cream. Now, you can go with heavy cream. I've done that in the past. It's okay. What I finally decided to use is a coconut cream. It's a little bit thicker, it's sweeter. If you don't want to go as sweet, you can use like a coconut milk. I've tried almond milk, it's okay. Just depends. Your mileage may vary. The way I'm making this though is it's basically vegan. It's just fruit, vegetables, and that's it. So let me get my rest of my stuff together here. Let me get my poop in a pile and we'll get started on the prep work. So I'm not going to lie to you, this is the worst part of this recipe, is peeling and cutting up a butternut squash. If you're lucky, a grocery store or market, something near you may sell pre-cubed butternut squash, which if you want, go ahead and get that. It's going to cost you a little bit more, but it'll save you some time and effort in the kitchen. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel it and then cut it in half, gut it, get the seeds out, and then chop it into bite-sized pieces, or 1-inch pieces. We'll see. Depends on what I feel like. And there you have it. One peeled butternut squash. A thing of beauty, isn't it? Okay, so now we're going to cut the ends off. Be very careful. Once you get the skin off of it, it can be a little slick. And we don't want to lose a finger. So, cap. You might make a nice little hat out of that or something. Right. I think what I'm going to do is cut it about here. Voila. Now we're going to cut it into cubes. Now these don't have to be perfect. All you really want to do is get them into similar size chunks, because it'll make it easier. They'll cook more evenly once we get them in the pot. So basically like that. As you can see, it's got all these guts and seeds in it. I'm going to pull it out with a spoon, but if you're feeling so inclined, you can always save the seeds, separate them, wash them from the rest of the guts, and roast them. And they're actually really pretty good. These are all pretty small seeds. I don't know if you can see them in here, so they're not really worth saving. So let me get this cleaned out and we'll keep moving on. And like magic, voila. So now we're going to go ahead and cut these up. Again, be careful because it's a little oddly shaped. Don't want to add, you know, a finger to your soup. That would suck. Let me finish this up and we'll get to the onions and the apples. Of course, we're going to cut our onion up. You can give it a rough chop. Basically, what we're going to be doing is cooking all this together in basically the stock, and then we're gonna get fancy and mash it all up. I see my sous chef has arrived. Hey Siri. Nothing that she wants to eat, so she's moving on. All right, get this chopped up and we'll move on to the apples. All right, apples. Gonna want to peel them because the skin is not going to taste good in the soup. Again, apples are easy enough to peel and clean. Just make sure you don't get the seeds in it, because you know why? The seeds have arsenic. Bet you didn't know that. Fun facts. Although apparently they're not deadly to humans, only to like dogs and cats or something. All right. A little extra around that. Boom, one down. This is probably the easiest part of the whole process. If you're like me, or you like my dog, if you're like my dogs, you like apple peels, I'll chop these up later and mix them in with some of their food. They love that crap. It's nice that you can feed them scraps. All right, and again, just a rough cut on these. Nothing fancy. And yes, I did miss a little bit of peel. That's okay. We're not professionals here. Obviously not a professional job, but hey, what do you expect? You're getting this for free, right? And now everything's ready to go. All right, so we're ready to go here. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna saute these main ingredients for a few minutes just to kind of soften them up a little bit. If you feel so inclined and you got time on your hands, you can always roast the butternut squash. That will kind of give it a roasted flavor. I've never done it. I don't want to do the extra step, so usually I just throw a little oil in here, heat it up over medium, and then we'll saute everything. Ready? Let's go. All right, we're going to put a little olive oil in here. I'd say about, I don't know, a couple of tablespoons. And this is a 6 quart, so we got a whole lot. All right, it's almost coming up to heat here. Now, I used oil because I'm trying to keep this as a vegan dish. You can use butter, but I mean, it adds some flavor to it, but I prefer the oil just to try to kind of keep things clean. I try to eat vegan at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, so this is a great meal for that because it's really healthy. It's got a lot of good nutrients, fiber, colors, and like I said earlier, my spouse likes it, so. All right, I think that's warm enough. And again, this is not a professional operation, so I'm just dumping everything in here. Deal with that later. Let it get going. I like to season this a little, like in layers. So every time I put a couple ingredients in, I add just a little bit of salt and pepper. What we're going to do is let this kind of simmer in the oil for just about, I don't know, 5 minutes. It'll start to soften up a little bit, and then we will add the onions, and then once those soften up just a bit, they start to get a little translucent, we'll add the apples. Let it go for a couple more minutes. I'd say no more than 4 or 5 minutes, because you don't want to overcook it yet. And then we move on to the next step. So the thing about cooking these is you're not going to necessarily see a visible difference like a browning or searing or anything like that. It's more of the smell. You're going to smell it starting to heat up. You'll hear it sizzling. So that's all good. Again, we're not trying to necessarily cook it right now. We're just trying to get a little flavor into it, heat it up, get it prepped. And what you'll start to see is they'll start to glisten a little bit and sweat, so that means that it's on the right track. All right, I think we're going to dump the onions in now. That's glass, so I'm not going to throw it in the sink. All right, mix that up a little bit. Like I said, a little bit of layering, a little bit of kosher salt, a little bit of black pepper, alright, it's getting there. Alright, those onions are starting to just turn a little translucent, so apple time. Those broken up, mixed in here, and again, just a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. All right, I'm going to give this probably another, no more than 5 minutes. Wait till I kind of smell the apple and the onion and the squash all mingling together. And then it's on to the easiest part, letting it cook. It's been nearly 5 minutes. The butternut squash is, I keep stirring it, mixing around so it will heat evenly. But you can start to see that some of the butternut squash will start to soften up a bit. The edges will start to kind of get a little mushy. That's perfect. So, next step is the vegetable broth. Now you can, or stock, whichever. You can use chicken if you want. I wouldn't use beef. That'd be kind of gross. But chicken stock works really well in this. Again, I'm trying to keep it vegan, so I'm going with vegetable stock. And this is fresh. Just made it yesterday. And I need a little bit more. I have extra. Probably won't use all of this one though. What I'm going to do is get it close to the top, about an inch from the top, so that way it won't boil over too badly. And that's what we want to do next, is bring this bad boy up to a boil. Once it does, we're going to lower it to medium and let it simmer for about probably close to 10 minutes. This is one of those things where you get like a fork or something. It's like making mashed potatoes. You get a fork and just check it and see. Once the fork goes in easy, it's really soft, the stuff's falling apart, it's ready. Also, another thing to consider is whether or not to put a lid on it. I will probably put a lid on it, but leave it cracked, let a little steam escape. That will allow the liquid to reduce just a little bit, so later on when we mash everything up, it'll make for a slightly thicker soup. But again, it's up to you what you prefer. If you add more liquid, keep the top on it, you have less evaporation, and then you have more soup. It'll just be a little runnier, I guess. So let's get this up to a boil, and I'll see you back here in about 10 minutes. And we're back. It's been about 10-12 minutes. I'm going to check and see. Ooh, that's hot. How these are doing. It looks like everything's kind of soft and falling apart. Rule of thumb is to always try to find like the big pieces, because those are the ones that are going to cook the slowest. Yeah, that feels pretty mushy. So what we're going to do next, and this is probably the dangerous part, is we want to kind of puree this to get into a nice consistency so it's not all chunky. The thing to keep in mind here is this is basically hot lava and will burn the crap out of you. Ask me how I know. There's a couple different ways you can do it. I use an immersion blender. It's relatively safe and does a pretty good job. You can also use like a food processor or just a regular stand-up blender. If you're going to do that though, I would highly recommend you take this off the heat and let it cool down for like 30 minutes or so, because you don't want to have to be dealing with the really hot liquid, and two, if you have one of the newer types of blenders or food processors, everything's kind of plastic and will probably crack or melt. That I haven't encountered, but I've read about it. So what I'm going to do is let this simmer off for just a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to get the immersion blender out, and you can laugh at me as I splash myself with really hot stuff. All right, immersion blender. This is actually one of my favorite things to play with in the kitchen. It's comes in handy so many times, especially during the winter when I'm making a lot of different types of soups and things like that. So I've left this on the burner. I've turned the heat off though for right now. I'm gonna try really hard not to burn myself. No safety goggles. So put it in. I tend to go with the kind of up and down motion. God, that's loud, isn't it? Try it like with this, because the this is a glazed cast iron. I don't want to scrape the bottom with the metal because it will scratch it. So just, again, be careful. Now, more loud stuff. And then what I do when I'm done is kind of move it around in here, make sure I don't feel any big chunks. I think that's got it. All right, get this out of the way. All right, so now we've got a nice looking soup. Last couple of steps are to first taste it, and again, don't burn yourself. Pretty close. So what we're gonna do is add just a little more salt, a little bit more pepper, and then, now here's where you can kind of get a little creative. I've added other things to it because this is kind of a wintry, squashy soup. In the past, I've done stuff like cinnamon, just a little pinch, or a little pinch of allspice. My favorite thing to put in it though is Chinese 5-spice. It is perfect accompaniment to this dish. However, I'm out. I didn't realize it. I checked my spice cabinet. There wasn't any, so I'm gonna have to order some. However, I do have some allspice. So I'm gonna add just a little bit. It's about a teaspoonish or so. But man, that mix of spices smells so good in here. And this is a little trick of mine. I also add a little bit of apple cider. Not apple cider vinegar because that would be gross, but a regular just apple cider. I add about maybe a half a cup, which again, that cidery kind of gives it another level of fall flavor. Ooh, I like that. Taste it again. I think that's just about perfect. Now, the coup d'etat. We're going to do this coconut cream, and I'm pretty sure that we need to shake the hell out of this. Yes, mix well before using. Pretty good. And again, you don't need a lot of this. This is mostly just to kind of add a little sweetness. I'm just going to add about that much because this stuff is really, really sweet. And I don't know why, but the coconutty flavor kind of goes well with it. I'll try that again. Holy crap, that's good. All right, so let me put this in a bowl, clean up a little bit of this mess, and we'll wrap things up here. Okay, so I didn't really clean up much, but I did get it into a nice little bowl here. As you can see, a nice little orangey butternut squash color. Oh, it's so good. You can taste the squash, the apples, the onions. That coconut milk adds a nice little, I don't know, I want to say tropical flavor, but just adds something to it. And then a little bit of that allspice. It's really great. You can top this if you want. I've seen people top it with, like, I don't know, sour cream maybe. Try, see. If you find something you like, let me know in the comments down there. I'm going to enjoy this once it cools off a little bit more. Oh, and one other thing. When you do mix it up, blend it up, I'd like to get it kind of finely mashed up so it's more liquidy, but it doesn't matter if you get a few little chunks of squash or apple or onion or something in there. It just gives it a little more texture. So give this a try. I think you'll like it. Like I said, if you don't want to have to clean the whole butternut squash, which is a huge pain in the ass, then you can buy it probably chopped up already. Or, you know, maybe pay a neighborhood kid to do it for you. Wash your car and cut up a butternut squash. Hey, all right, until next time, have fun, be safe, be creative. If you would, please subscribe. I think it's down here somewhere. Check out my other videos, check out my podcast, check out my short story collections, check out my blog, check out all the things. Peace. Cheers.